lawsuit on behalf of 3-year-old KJ Starks Jr.'s estate in the Circuit Court of Jefferson County, and we are presently waiting for DHR and the other defendants to file an answer. Those answers will be due within 30 days from the time that they've been served, which now all defendants have been served with a copy of the summons and a copy of the complaint. Currently in Alabama right now, there are approximately 6,000 children who are in foster care, as KJ was. The 6,000 children, they're also in state custody, in the custody of DHR. And what happened to KJ, we want to make sure that this never ever happens again to another child in this state. And so this lawsuit is asking for punitive damages. We've filed it with the court asking for punitive damages against these defendants to deter this type of conduct from ever happening again. What other questions you have?
At this point, has there been any communication from DHR or Covenant Services to you or the family? There,
and again, that's the reason why we've waited to file the lawsuit in court. After this tragedy happened, a letter was sent to Covenant Services. A letter was sent also to DHR's head office in Montgomery, and we have we never got a response back from either. And so the community, as well as his family, they've been mourning the death of KJ, and not just his death, but how he died, how tragic of a death that the baby had to suffer. And we want answers. The family deserves answers, the community deserves answers, and then, like I said, all of the other children who are in foster care as well. We want to make sure that whatever went wrong here, that we can identify that problem to ensure this never happens again. But by filing the lawsuit, this starts the process. Now they have to answer. Once we file the lawsuit in court, now by law they have to file an answer, and we're awaiting that response.
Can you talk about the 7 other individuals that you named personally in this lawsuit, and why they were specifically named as well?
Yeah, and so all of the workers who were assigned to work at DHR, the Alabama Department of Human Resources, the Jefferson County Department of Human Resources, and the Bessemer Department, where KJ, his case was pending, from the worker who was on the front line all the way up to the director. We've named all of those individuals, and there may be more. I mean, there may be more people that need to be added to this lawsuit once we get into our own discovery and the investigation to find out every person who was responsible for that baby's safety, his welfare, his well-being. We want to make sure that they're included as well. There was a contract, as we know, that DHR filed with Covenant Services, Inc. Covenant Services, Inc. then is a company that is transporting KJ from his daycare to his visits with his parents and back to daycare. That's what was supposed to happen. That didn't happen. These workers all had one job, which was to protect KJ from abuse and neglect. That is their job, to protect him from abuse and neglect. These workers did the exact opposite. They caused his abuse and neglect and ultimately his death. And so that's what this lawsuit's about.
Do you know they're still using Covenant Services?
To our knowledge, and this is what's so shocking, we understand that DHR is still contracted with this Covenant Services. The worker was immediately terminated, Keela Stanford, after it was identified that she had left KJ in the car for more than 5 hours, parked in her car in her driveway, from the Bessemer DHR office to his daycare on one side of town to her personal home that was on the other side of Birmingham. And the baby, while she's inside of her house, she picked up food for her family and went to a tobacco store and bought items, which we have to find out what all was purchased there as well. She put herself first. She put her family first before KJ. And so while KJ's sitting outside in her hot car for more than 5 hours, she's inside eating food inside in the cool air. We also think that DHR needs to terminate the contract with Covenant Services. How many other kids are at risk for this same type of tragedy? We're thankful to Governor Ivey. She came out and she was correct, and she said that the conduct of these workers was gross neglect. She called it gross neglect, and it is. And she also said that their conduct was reprehensible. And so we thank the governor for that, but we want to make sure that the governor and the legislature goes even further than that. And by putting the protocols and the steps in place on the legislative side to make sure whatever oversight is needed, that is immediately put in place, because again, for the other 6,000 children like KJ who are currently in foster care system across Alabama.
I know having charges against Miss Stanford and now a lawsuit against these 9 people, it's not going to bring KJ back, but how does this help the family cope and emotionally get through this?
Well, it's getting the family the answers that they deserve. No one from DHR has called to explain how this could happen. There was a call that the worker herself called, but no one from DHR who had the actual custody. KJ didn't have a choice into his whereabouts. You know, he was forced to be where he was. And again, allegedly in the safety and the protection of those who were going to look out for his well-being. That's not what happened. And so what this lawsuit does is seeking the answers that this family and the community that they're asking.
And you talk about wanting lawmakers and legislation to get involved with these regulations. As of right now, for transportation, there are no regulations for this. So what do you want to see in place?
Yeah, well, think about it. If you order Uber Eats or DoorDash, you could track your meal from the time that it's prepared all the way to your home. Or if a child gets into an Uber, I mean, the technology there, this is not rocket science. You know, to know where these children are every step of the way, if you are the ones that are responsible for their custody. And so with DHR, none of these workers, none of the people who are involved in this lawsuit ever inquired where KJ was. Was he okay? They had no idea. Even the worker who had picked him up from daycare just hours beforehand, you know, said that she had no idea until she received a call after 5:30 in the evening asking, where's KJ? Why was he not brought back to the daycare? It was at that point in time, she said that she realized that she had left KJ in the car for multiple hours. We're also going to investigate the car itself, because we've been told that the car had the technology on the car that notified you if something was left or someone in the car. But DHR also failed this baby because, and this is a part of the vetting process that we need to get the answers. Before you allow a child who's in foster care to be placed into a home, there's an evaluation that's done. And that evaluation is to make sure that that home is safe, that home is suitable. I've gotten multiple calls from people, some who don't want to share their information, their names, saying, Mr. French, this same company will show up to pick up our child who is a toddler without a car seat. How does that happen? How do you have the company that DHR is contracted with to show up to pick up a child without the proper car seat? With Stanford's vehicle, we were also told, and it was told by law enforcement as part of the investigation, that she had illegal tint that was on her car that was so dark that if you were standing right next to the car, you couldn't see that KJ was even in the car. How many neighbors probably walked by, you know, with the baby? And he's a smart kid. He knew his ABCs, he knew how to count, he knew how to sing. He even knew how to unfasten himself from the car seat, but she had the car locks on. She had the child safety locks on the car, and this baby was literally trapped inside of a car that was hot as a furnace for those hours until he died.
Do you feel as though this was the first time this worker had done this?
No, not at all. And in fact, some of the other calls that I've received, and that will later on come out in this case, from this worker and also from this company, In fact, and you can do the research, the executive director of this company, who's named as a defendant, Roderick Henderson, the executive director of Covenant Services, has had a lawsuit filed against him by DHR for abuse and neglect. How do you end up with the contract to have children in foster care, children in your custody for their safety and well-being, when you as a person have had charges filed against the very department that you're supposed to be in the custody of safely? It just doesn't make sense.
You're asking for a jury trial. Do you think it'll actually escalate to that level?
Well, based upon DHR's past history, and unfortunately we've had many other cases where I've represented families whose children also died in the custody of DHR. And none of those cases has DHR or someone from DHR just stepped up and admitted wrongdoing. When the governor says that it was gross neglect and reprehensible, you would think that a state agency would then reach out to the family and say that we made a mistake. What can we do? You're right, nothing can bring KJ back, but this family deserves answer, they deserve closure, and they deserve, and the community deserves that this never happens again. And so we are prepared to take this case as far as we need to. If it's to a jury trial, if it's to the Supreme Court, KJ deserves that.
You mentioned the phone call where the worker had called the family. What's the family's reaction to that phone call?
This is the other shocking part about it. The protocol, and DHR has a protocol, as you would do, anytime that there's a death, and especially of a child, is to make in-person notification that your child has died. The one call that they did receive was from someone at DHR over the phone saying that your child is dead. And the worker herself, Stanford, also reached out to the family in an attempt to explain how she forgot that KJ was in the car. Some things are just indefensible. And this is one of the cases and tragedies that they really just can't explain it. And so what they've done, DHR, they've said, oh, this is just a third-party company. This worker didn't work directly for DHR, but this was the company that you hired. This was the company that you were supposed to vet and to make sure that the children who were in your custody were safe. That was the job of DHR, and so that's why these other defendants are included in this case. That was their job, and they failed.
Could you share what type of car it was? You mentioned the tent and the technology, but what type of car was she driving?
I would have to get that information, and I don't have it in front of me.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Anything else, Rhonda? Did you have? Okay, not at this time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.